is Becky Measures in for Paulette. Hope you're doing all right. So how often do you get on a bus? For a lot of us, buses are essential, but what's around the next corner for public transport? Well, during COVID-19 pandemic, the government gave the public transport system financial support, but that is due to end very soon. Will this mean fare rises or fewer buses? Well, South Yorkshire Mayor Dan Jarvis thinks the impact could be devastating. Strong words. And Dan joins me right now. Hello.
Good morning, Becky.
Thank you so much for coming on today, Dan. What do you mean by devastating?
I think if we're honest, we've had a long-standing challenge with the quality and the service of our buses in South Yorkshire. And over the past couple of years, I've been working with the leaders to try and address those challenges. Then COVID and lockdown happened, and that drove down the patronage massively, and that's created all sorts of problems. We're now at the point, as we come through the pandemic, that we're looking at what more we can do to invest in our services. But to my concern, it looks like the operators are going to begin a process of not only increasing the fares, but also reducing the number of services that they operate, precisely at the moment that we want to get people back onto public transport. So I'm trying to persuade the operators not to make the cuts that they say that they're going to make. I'm trying to persuade them not to increase the fares that they say that they're going to increase, but also trying to get the government to provide more support. We produced what was called a bus services improvement plan a number of months ago, based on a promise from government to give us extra revenue to invest in our bus services. It now looks as if the government have gone back on that promise and won't be providing us with the funds that we need. So significant challenges. And that's why I'm trying to talk to the operators, trying to talk to national government, working with the local council leaders. So together, we can firstly protect the services that are running at the moment, but also think about how we can improve the services over the longer term.
I mean, it appears to me, and forgive me if I am right, it just seems like things are going round in circles. I keep seeing, I'm somebody that has to read the travel out here on this show at times. And I keep seeing strike action, reduced services, et cetera, et cetera. I'm hearing about people that, can never get to work on time because they don't know what's going to be coming next or if it's actually going to be turning up, et cetera. And then obviously you're talking about a hiking fares when what we're trying to do, like you say, is encourage people to ditch the cars more in a way and, sort of use public transport as a service. It just seems like it's going round and round and round.
Well, it is, and it's a perfect storm, really. All of these factors have come together to put massive pressures on the bus network. And I think, buses offer a huge opportunity. We've got going back years and years, we used to be really proud of our buses in South Yorkshire, but we're not anymore. Just this morning, and it happens to me every single day, people get in touch to say that their bus didn't turn up, or it was late, or it was dirty. So we're dealing with these challenges literally on an hourly basis. But I think if you think about the bigger picture, think about the commitments that we've made locally and nationally to meeting net zero targets, we've got to make sure that we don't see a car-led recovery, because throughout lockdown, people have got back into the habit of travelling in their car because of concern about being in a public space and being on a bus. But also the point about confidence. If you want a good bus service, people have got to have confidence in it. And they don't at the moment, and that's a problem. So we've got to restore that confidence. We've invested millions of pounds of our own money to try and reduce fares, to try and give people that confidence to invest back in public transport. But it's been pretty challenging. We put a levelling up fund bid into government specifically to improve our bus services in South Yorkshire. It was a really good bid, would have improved the buses, would have contributed to the government's levelling up agenda, supported the work that we're doing to be net zero by 2040. But that bid was unsuccessful. So it's frustrating from my point of view that our local authorities, my team and myself, we want to invest in our buses. We want a bus service that people have confidence in and can be proud of. But we need the operators to play their part, and we need national government to honour the commitments that they've made. And that's what I'm trying to get them to do.
I don't envy you. I really don't. This is what the government have told us. A Department for Transport spokesperson said, over this Parliament, the government is committed to make a step change investment of over $3 billion into bus services. This includes $1.2 billion in dedicated new funding to deliver improvements in fares, services and infrastructure, and a further $525 million on new funding for zero emission buses. It sounds a lot. Is it?
It It isn't, because slightly weasel words there, I have to say, because we were promised $3 billion. So along with the other mayors, we did our bus plans based on there being $3 billion. That's what the Comprehensive Spending Review said back in the autumn. We found out last week with the publication of the Levelling Up Fund white paper that it wasn't $3 billion. It's $1.2 billion. And by the way, that is for all of England for the next 5 years. So if you think about $1.2 billion for all of England for the next 5 years, what does that actually equate for South Yorkshire? The truth of the matter is, Becky, it probably equates to nothing for South Yorkshire. So despite the Prime Minister saying he was a big fan of buses, you may recall that he said that he liked to paint buses in his spare time and made a commitment to invest in our services. That hasn't unlocked a single pound of investment for our bus services in South Yorkshire. So that's the sort of challenging financial climate that we're operating in. That's why, along with the leaders, we put millions of pounds of our own money, but it won't be enough. So we need the government to unlock more resource. We need the operators to do the right thing. The operators have had millions and millions of pounds of public subsidy to keep our services running throughout the pandemic. They need to have a long, hard look in the mirror and think about really whether it is the right thing as that subsidy draws to an end, that immediately they're going to hike the fares and reduce the services. That is not in anybody's interest. So I'm asking them to think again about that. But certainly, I will continue to press the case for investment in our buses. I will do everything that we possibly can at a local level to try and improve the services, because I know how important it is. You know, a woman tweeted me this morning. She was waiting for a bus. She needed the bus to be on time so she could get to work. The bus didn't turn up, so she was late for work. The disruption, the impact it has on people's lives is very significant. And if we want to be serious about addressing the climate emergency that we undoubtedly face, we've got to get people out of their cars and back onto public transport. But we'll only do that if they can have confidence in the service. And that's what we're working to build.
Well, Sharon from Fox Hill has a point that's very relevant to this, haven't you, Sharon? What would you like to put to Dan, darling?
Very ironic, Dan, that you just mentioned that, because people may know I've actually campaigned for better buses in Fox Hill for some years. And with Radio Sheffield covered this issue a couple of times. But what I said 10 years ago at local meetings was, we've got a problem here. We've got extra fuel emissions going out. We've got global warming and problems with the fuel emissions. And the point was missed then. I said we must encourage people to get out of the cars and onto public transport. And I thought at one time we was getting somewhere. And then it seemed to drift back again. And then again, I saw that there was a new proposal that's going to go through the city centre about where you could go in the clean air zone. I raised my concerns with a few people in the council and said there's a problem here, is that now, how are you going to get people to go into town again if they're not going to go through certain areas, those buses? The buses should have not been penalised, I think. I think we should have not penalise the buses going through there and stop the cars. I mean, we're 10 years too late, Dan. There's now a person, 80-year-old, talking to me, said that she can't get a bus and she's getting on a taxi. And this is a person, 80-year-old, the other day. And actually, me and my mum's doing the same. It's a really bad state of affairs.
I agree with all of that. That's precisely why I took the decision a couple of years ago to integrate the South Yorkshire Passenger Transport Executive into the mayoral office. So that's a process that's nearly complete. And that will mean that at a regional level, decisions that are taken about the buses are more accountable. We drew together the Bus Services Improvement Plan on the basis that the government were going to put more funding into the buses. We put forward a Levelling Up Fund bid on the basis the government were going to support that. We're in the process of buying electric buses and working with the local authorities closely. I think you make a really important point about the clean air zone, which I know that is something that the Sheffield City Council are working on at the moment. We need to ensure, given the commitments that we've made to being net zero as a region by 2040, that we are enabling people to travel in a way that is convenient, that is affordable and sustainable. It's one of the reasons why we've invested millions of pounds in the active travel network across South Yorkshire, but the buses have got a really important role to play. In the end, the big challenge that I have is how I pay for all of this, because local authorities are cash strapped because they've had significant cuts to their finances. And this is why I was genuinely pleased when the government said that they were going to invest $3 billion in our services. But of course, when the $3 billion turns out to be only $1.2 billion, and as I say, that's spread across all of England for 5 years, there just isn't the money that we need to transform the services. But I agree with the points that you make. These are points that people make to me on a regular basis. And that's why we need the operators to do the right thing and not withdraw the services that they're intending to withdraw, not to hike the fares, because inevitably, if the cost of getting on a bus is more expensive, fewer people will do it, so it becomes a sort of vicious circle. We also need to see a bit of leadership from national government. They need to properly invest in our services so we can put in place a network that will give people the confidence to get back on the bus and leave their car at home. And that's what we're trying to do. But it's pretty challenging given all of the sort of different things that we're dealing with.
Dan, thank you so much for that. And Sharon, thank you so much for your question as well. It's Sharon from Fox Hill, who is concerned about the clean air tax putting people off using buses. Dan, obviously, if anybody else does have any more questions, are you all right to stay with us for a little bit?
Of course, as I think I'm heading to Prime Minister's questions in a bit, but I think it was a very good point from Sharon. And of course, if anybody else has got any questions, yes, happy to respond to them.
Amazing. 0800 111 49 49. Sheffield in your message 81333. And of course, for you, Danny, I mean, it's been a dramatic week or two in Westminster with the Sue Gray report and obviously the comments made by the Prime Minister that lots of people aren't happy with. Obviously the leader of your party being targeted by protesters. What do you make of everything that's going on? Do you feel safe at the moment? Do you feel okay?
No, I don't. And I was really disturbed, but not surprised to see what happened to Keir Starmer outside Parliament the other day. I think there is a direct link between what the Prime Minister said at the dispatch box and what happened to Keir Starmer. The Prime Minister said something that I think we all know is not true. And it's deeply worrying that the leader of our country would seek to make a slur in the way that he did. And the really worrying aspect of it is he must have known not only what he was saying was not true, but he must have known the impact that it would have on Keir Starmer, his family, and the rest of us. So I think the Prime Minister needs to act more responsibly. I think he needs to show both leadership and contrition. And when Prime Minister's questions happens today in about half an hour, I hope, not least because the Speaker raised concerns in Parliament yesterday, I hope the Prime Minister will take the opportunity to put the record straight and offer an apology to Keir Starmer. That would be the right thing to do, and I hope that he does that today.
Dan Jarvis, thank you so much. And he will be with us for the next few minutes or so. So if you do have any more questions regarding buses and the fares or anything like that you want to put towards Dan,